In 1982, some people went from not feeling good to having seizures to end up dead after ingesting some Tylenol pills. What happened? Were they adulterated? Was the manufacturer responsible for it? Or it was somebody else's fault? Did it happen in the process of making the pills? Or it happened afterwards? All of this and more you're gonna find out in this video today. Hello guys, how are you doing? I'm Avla G and you're in my channel Spookyavy and you can call me Abby. Don't forget to already subscribe, the channel is new, so I count on you guys to help it grow a little more. A lot more, actually. So I will keep bringing cases of true crime, supernatural, and also conspiracy theories, and not only from United States, but from all over the world, including Brazil, where I'm from. Don't forget then to subscribe, give it a like, and comment down below the next case you want me to talk about here in the channel. Normal bullshit, let's go to the video. On September 29, 1982, 12-year-old Mary Kellerman, that lived in Chicago, woke up with a fever, a headache, common cold symptoms. Her parents thought it would be better if she stayed home instead of going to school, and to bring the fever down, her father gave her 2 Tylenol pills. The girl went to the bathroom, and after a while there, her father was like, why is she taking so long? He went there and knocked on the door, and no response from the little girl. He managed his way into the bathroom just to find his daughter's body unconscious on the floor. They called the paramedics immediately, but unfortunately, 4 hours after ingesting the pills, she was dead. The doctor said that she had probably like a brain damage that was irreversible, but she was only 12 years old with no other kind of historic of diseases. How come her brain just stopped? They did an autopsy on the body and unfortunately they found nothing. Later that day, 27 years old Aidan Janus, a fit mailman, was rushed into the hospital, but didn't survive for unknown causes. He also didn't feel good that day. So he called in sick for work, and the only time that he actually left the house was to go to the market to buy some Tylenol and some other groceries so he could cook some lunch for his wife and his kids. After eating lunch, he finally took 2 Tylenol pills, and after 3 hours, he was pronounced dead. The doctors at the hospital said that probably he had a heart attack, but he was only 27. He was so young and he was fit. He ate clean as much as he could, and he was always active. So how come a heart attack? It didn't even make sense. He also had no prior history of diseases in the family. His mourning family went back to the house, and his younger brother, Stanley Janus, decided to take 2 Tylenol pills for his headache, along with his newlywed wife, Teresa Janus. She cried so hard for the death of her brother-in-law that she also had this huge headache. Each one of them took 2 pills. Not long after, Stanley started presenting the same first symptoms as Aidan's. The paramedics were called. They came immediately to the house, and when they were doing the cardiac massage on him, Teresa grabbed the arm of one of the paramedics and collapsed. The paramedics then they had to divide themselves into groups, one to take care of Stanley and another one to take care of Teresa. They were rushed to the hospital. The doctor that early on had taken care of Aidan was advised by the nurse that 2 other family members were arriving with the same symptoms: rapid shallow breathing, fixed dilated pills, and not responsive at all. Unfortunately, the family that had just buried Aidan now just lost Stanley, that arrived at the hospital deceased. Teresa survived it with machines for a while, and she passed away not long after. But now they had 3 people from the same family. The only thing that they could think about was poisoning, so they took the blood for analysis. You, my friend, might be thinking, oh, come on, Abby. They did not suspect about the Tylenol. Come on. It was the only thing that all of them had ingested that day. Wait a second. You have to think with me on this one, okay? Like, back then and even nowadays, Tylenol is a huge name in the medication industry. They had never had reports of anything, any kind of problem or major reaction because of Tylenol. Plus, there was another thing that was not allowing them to connect the dots. Mary Kellerman, the little girl that also died after ingesting Tylenol, she was taken to another hospital. So the doctors hadn't checked yet and connect the dots. Another 3 people also died with the exact same symptoms. Mary McFarland, 31, mother of 2. She had a headache at work, took the pills while working, and her first symptoms started right there. She was attended by her colleagues, taken to the hospital, and after a few hours in critical conditions, she came to obit. Another woman, also called Mary Rayner, was 27 years old, mother of 4 kids. She had just left the hospital after giving birth to the 4th child. She arrived home tired and with a headache and took 2 Tylenol pills. She was confirmed dead in the next morning. The last victim was Paula Prince, a 35 years old flight attendant. She had just landed when she went to the store and bought a bottle of Tylenol. She took the Tylenol pills and went to bed. She couldn't even call for help. Her body was found by her sister after she didn't appear for lunch that they scheduled together. She was a really reliable person, and come on, was her sister. So the fact that she just didn't show up without leaving any message or anything just didn't make sense. Paula's sister went to her apartment just to find Paula's lifeless body on the floor. Chuck Kramer, former firefighter, and retired nurse Helen Jensen were part of the team that made the discovery that all deaths could have been linked to the Tylenol. They were sure that something deadly was inside those bottles. Helen then decided to go to the head of the hospital and say, hey, I think that what killed these people was Tylenol. She was laughed at and nobody cared about what she said. The lab results for the blood of the 3 victims came back. In Teresa's body itself, there were enough cyanide to kill 26 elephants. So the levels of cyanide found in the bodies was extremely huge. Crews were sent to Adam's house to figure it out, some gas escape or some chemicals that could have been there and poisoned the family. Nurse Helen, though, she didn't just give up. She also went to Adam's house and she was able to find the original bottle of Tylenol. And she realized that 6 capsules were missing and we had 3 victims. So 2 pills to each victim. That just made sense. She also managed to find the receipt of the Tylenol bottle that Adam bought that day when he went to the groceries. So now she had basically 2 proofs to reinforce her theory that the Tylenol was the thing killing the people. But again, nobody cared. She decided then to go to the cops and to tell everything that she had found and all her theory. She gave the information and the bottle of Tylenol to the investigator Nick Picious. He called Dr. Edmund Donog, Deputy Chief Medical Examiner for the county, who, suspecting that cyanide may be the culprit, asked Picious to smell the bottle. When Picious smelled the bottle, he could scent the smell of almonds. Cyanide is known for having this almond scent. And it was really lucky that he was able to scent it, to smell it, because most part of the population cannot smell cyanide, cannot smell even this almond scent at all. Now, finally, the cops did a press conference telling people to do not take Tylenol until the investigation was over. At this point, they already knew about the other deaths. So they started comparing the bottles first. They realized that the bottle that Kellerman's used and the one that Adam's family used, they came from the same lot. So Johnson & Johnson, first of all, that was the manufacturer for Tylenol, they just recall all the Tylenol from that lot. On that day itself, they lost 7% on stocks, but they didn't care about what they were losing. They couldn't manage to lose more lives. But right after, they realized that the other victims' bottles came from other kind of lots. Johnson & Johnson ended up calling out 31 million bottles. And with that, they lost around $100 million. But they probably saved a lot of lives with that. Cyanide is one of the most powerful poisons. It acts fast, is potentially dead, and it's a chemical that interferes with the body's ability to use oxygen. Cyanide can be colorless gas or liquid, such as hydrogen cyanide or cyanogen chloride. Cyanide can also be a crystal. One example is the sodium cyanide or the potassium cyanide. The cyanide has been used as an execution method since the old times, and it's really easy to poison somebody with that because the person is not going to see any color, is not going to smell anything, and it's not going to taste anything different. Early symptoms include fast heart rate, headache, dizziness, seizures, shortness of breath, and vomiting. This phase might be followed by slow heart rate, low blood pressure, loss of consciousness, and cardiac arrest. A huge investigation took place, and they were able to determine that Johnson & Johnson wasn't responsible for the laced Tylenols. So what was happening was somebody was buying these bottles, lacing the pills, and putting back on the shelves. With that said, Johnson & Johnson also proposed to exchange the capsules for tablets because tablets are more difficult to adulterate than pills because the capsules you can just open, put whatever you want inside, close it, and that's it. This is one really interesting thing. When they finally started taking this closer look to the Tylenol, they realized that the laced pills, they were a little bigger, like slightly bigger, and they would get stuck together. Further investigation proved that some of these bottles came from Pennsylvania and others came from Texas. That really supported the theory that somebody else was lacing the pills, but made it even more difficult to figure out if it was one person or more people involved in this crime. Even though it was all over the media, it's been over 40 years and they never caught the actual murder. But they did have a few suspects. The first suspect was James William Levis. He started writing a bunch of letters to Johnson & Johnson claiming that he was the person responsible for the adulterations and that he wanted $1 million to stop it. Upon his arrest, Lewis told the authorities how the person behind the attacks may have carried out the killings by buying Tylenol, adding cyanide to the bottles, and returning them to the store shelves. Levis was also found to have previously possessed a poisoning book, and according to a confidential law enforcement document, his fingerprints were discovered on pages related to cyanide. He denied being responsible for the poisonings, but he admitted to writing the letters. He was convicted of extortion and sentenced to 10 years in prison. In early 2009, the Department of Justice investigators concluded that Lewis was responsible for the poisonings, despite the fact that they did not have enough evidence to charge him. In January of 2010, him and his wife provided DNA samples to the FBI, and he even said that if the FBI played fairly, he had nothing to worry about. And he was kind of right, because the DNA found in the Tylenol bottles that were laced did not match his or his wife's fingerprints and DNA. Levis kept continuously to deny his involvement with the Tylenol murders until his death on July 9 of 2023 at the age of 76. Police also investigated a second man, Roger Arnold, who told officers that he possessed potassium cyanide. The bar owner, Marty Sinclair, reported Arnold to the police. He said that Arnold was irregular and that one day while he was drinking, he said something about killing people with this white powder. Arnold had worked with victim Mary Rayner's father at a warehouse, and Arnold's wife had been treated at a hospital across the street from the store in which Rayner bought her cyanide-laced pills that killed her. A copy of the poor man's James Bond, which contained instructions on making potassium cyanide, was found in Arnold's home. He was held several times by the police, but never charged. In the summer of 1983, Arnold was convicted of the killing of a man, and he served 15 years in prison of his 30-year sentence for second-degree murder. In 1996, he said from prison, "I killed a man, a perfectly innocent person. I had choices. I could have walked away. He died in June of 2008. In 2010, his body was exhumed and subsequently reburied so that his femur bone could have been removed for DNA testing. But his DNA also did not match with the DNA found in the bottles. On May 19, 2011, the FBI requested DNA samples from Unabomber Ted Kaczynski in connection to the Tylenol murders. Kaczynski denied having never possessed potassium cyanide. They were considering him as a suspect because his first 4 Unabomber crimes happened in Chicago and its suburbs from 1978 to 1980, and Kaczynski's parents had a house there where he stayed every now and then. Hundreds of copycat attacks started happening all over the country following the Chicago Tylenol murders. And because at this point they didn't have anybody to say, oh, okay, that's 100% sure that it was this person, these copycats were thinking, maybe I can kill somebody with cyanide and say that it was related to the Tylenol murders. So they thought they could just blame somebody else, frame somebody else. But nah. 3 more deaths occurred in 1986 from tempered gelatin capsules. 23-year-old Diane Elroth died in Yonkers, New York after ingesting extra-strength Tylenol capsules laced with cyanide. Excedrin capsules in Washington state were tampered with, resulting in the deaths of Susan Snow and Bruce Nickel from cyanide poisoning, and the eventual arrest and conviction of Bruce Nickel's wife, Stella Nickel, for her intentional actions in the crimes connected to both murders. They were having an affair and she wasn't too happy about it, so she decided to just kill them. Why not? A lot of these copycat murders end up being solved by the police and people got what they deserved. I mean, almost everybody, because until nowadays, after 40 years, we still don't know who was the responsible for the Chicago Tylenol murders. That also doesn't say at all that the deaths of the Genus family was in vain. Their deaths probably prevented the deaths of thousands of people because they were one family. They were members of the same family. They were able to find the source of the poisoning. There was the Tylenol laced pills. So I feel really sorry for the Genus family. Probably they're suffering until nowadays the consequences of this horrible crime. But I also know that they were responsible for avoiding the deaths of thousands of people. The 1982 incident inspired the pharmaceutical, food, and consumer product industries to develop tamper-resistant packaging, such as induction seals and improved quality control methods. Moreover, product tampering was made a federal crime. Also, what happened made the pharmaceutical industry to move away from capsules and start making tablets in the shape of a capsule as a drug delivery form, and with the addition of tamper-evident safety seals to bottles of many sorts. So the regulations for medication became more aggressive to avoid cases like the Tylenol murder. So the Chicago Tylenol murders is until nowadays unsolved. Comment down below what you think about this case. Comment down below if you think it was the Unabomber and if you want a video talking just about his story. A huge kiss for all of you guys, and I see you in the next video. Don't forget, subscribe, like, share, and I see you in the next video.